ANC won this year's elections, but with a reduced majority of 57.5%. In the last national elections in 2014, you'll recall, it garnered 62% of the vote. We were expecting the head of elections, Pule Mabe, tonight. He is preparing for an NEC meeting tomorrow, National Executive Committee meeting, a very high decision-making body in the ANC. So we're joined by the spokesperson, Pule Mabe. Thank you for being with us, Pule.
No, thanks, and evening to your viewers.
Obviously, without Mr. Malula here, a lot of questions will rise. What's the NEC meeting going to be about?
Well, tomorrow it's a special NEC, and just to clarify, the head of elections was still outside the Lituli House because we had, if you like, street bash where we were basically thanking our volunteers for going out in their numbers and affirming the African National Congress as their leader.
The NEC meeting tomorrow, can you give us some ideas?
It's a special NEC. It's a special NEC. We have already issued a media advisory. Well, it's consistent with practice. Every time after elections, as guided by the resolutions of conference, we ought to meet to get feedback or reports from various provincial executive committees, especially on premier candidates, where they are expected to put forward 3 names, so that when the NEC meet and discuss, it could be able to reflect on a product that shall have been processed by provinces.
Okay, and is this navel gazing after the elections as well? What went wrong, what went right? Well,
I'm sure that there will be appropriate time to also take stock. You'll understand that as a political formation ourselves, we keep on analyzing our own, whether it's our own electoral dividends or declines where they could have been, the things that need to be done. But what is important is that we are humbling ourselves on the support expressed and displayed by the people of this country throughout. I mean, this was a show of confidence. The president of the ANC, President Cyril Ramaphosa, spoke earlier today, thanking our people for investing their confidence yet again in the African National Congress, and reassured our people that we will be doing everything else we can in our power to make sure that those things that were contained in our blueprint, which is the manifesto, the things that we said will be done, are going to be done.
It's declining confidence, though. What does the ANC do with a dip, I think, of about 4.5%?
Well, I think that one of the things we need to all appreciate is that with the deepening of democracy, we also saw the number of political parties contesting in these elections increasing to about 48 parties. This means that when people begin to understand democracy, you'll also have more political parties that are formed. And when political parties are formed, it will also mean that the space of contest also becomes slimmer in that way. So I wouldn't want us to necessarily talk to this as a lack of confidence. No, there were many political parties that were contesting in these elections. There were about 48 political parties.
But only 14 went to Parliament, basically the same as last time. No broad changes, but a drop.
But I'm sure that if you check, I know that just top of mind on what was a calculation on the numbers that could have gone to all the different parties, whether you call them smaller parties or it's over 500,000. That's a big number.
Yeah.
That's a big number. If you take all of those parties, because there is no single party in these elections that went out with 0.
The Economist said that the ANC was re-elected without much enthusiasm. Certainly the turnout, which has dropped significantly, shows some sort of apathy, surely some sort of disillusionment. Are you concerned that some people are voting for the ANC because that's, well, what they do?
We will be analyzing all of these factors in their totality so that we can understand exactly what are the issues on the ground. But one of the messages that we want to be taking out there is to make sure that we deepen the understanding of democracy, especially amongst the youth, because participating in elections is another way of deepening and sustaining our own democratic order. So we want citizens, especially the youth in their majority, to participate in the electoral process, to be part of going out and voting. I mean, if you have got, you see, we had a bigger percentage this year in the sense that if you look at your turnout percentage, it's over 60%. So which is basically over 2/3 of the people who registered to vote went out to vote.
Yeah, but we know that less than half of, I think, 18 to 19-year-olds are even registering. So young people are voting with their feet. They're not even voting. They're not even bothering to register.
Yes.
What are you going to do to get them on your side? Because that must point to a troublesome future for the ANC.
You see, those are the things that will have to be part of the work that we do. When we do a diagnostic analysis on the outcomes of these elections, we'll have to also look at the kind of programs that we need to be putting forward to make sure that we rid the country of voter apathy. We make sure that a larger part of our young people begin to understand that participating in elections is part of their own responsibility as citizens. It's a very important part of their own civil duties.
Some of the analysis saw this as a referendum on President Cyril Ramaphosa. What does the ANC think of that? The question being, does this result strengthen his hand to deal with the factionalism in the party, the corruption in the party, or weaken his hand?
Well, the president, even today, when he was addressing our volunteers and supporters out in Lituli House, he did indicate that one of the things that we are going to have to do is to make sure that we take further forward the program on unity and renewal. And renewing the ANC will have to do with a number of things, making sure that things are done right, retaining our own public institutions to one good governance, making sure that we install correct ethical leadership to be able to be at the helm of some of those institutions. Do the things that will help us boost and inspire public confidence. But beyond that, make sure that there are jobs for youth. I mean, we have taken out experience.
But just before the elections, President Cyril Ramaphosa in the final rally was talking about dealing with corruption and bringing change based on previous years. At the same time, the ANC deployed former President Jacob Zuma to KwaZulu-Natal, the very man accused and who has been implicated in much of the corruption. It still feels like the left hand is not talking to the right hand.
Well, I don't think that we should even get to that. I don't think that we should be.
Why not?
I don't think that we should be defocused. We just moved out of an electioneering period now. The people of South Africa have expressed their own confidence. Former President Jacob Zuma, like all other former presidents of the ANC who are still alive, participated in the campaign and were humbled by that. I mean, I can tell you now, if President Zuma didn't go out in KwaZulu-Natal to campaign as much as he did, like all other leaders of the ANC, who knows? The leadership of the ANC in that province is on record as saying that the role played by President Zuma in the campaign in that province has effectively boosted their own campaigning efforts. So I wouldn't want us to go there. Safe to say that we are humbled by the role played by volunteers and former leaders of the African National Congress who took it, who found it in themselves to be able to go out and campaign for the ANC.
Are you not concerned about those South Africans who are worried about serious claims against many members of the ANC, including the top six? And now it sounds like you're saying it's okay as long as they bring in votes.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need to give the organization space. The ANC will be able to sit in its NEC, analyze these elections, take stock on where, for instance, we have grown. One, in Eguruleni, we're now sitting at over 50%. In Johannesburg, we have increased. We are now sitting at 49 plus some few digits. Same as in Tshwane. So the three metros in Gauteng, we've effectively seen growth if you looked at the previous local government elections. So now this increase, it's important for us. I mean, there are over 2 million people, 2 million residents of Gauteng went out to vote and vote for the ANC.
Can we expect radical changes to the cabinet?
Well, you would know that the constitution of cabinet is a preview of the president. The president's prerogative to establish cabinet. He did say, though, earlier that we are likely to see a much linear cabinet, increase on efficiency levels, make sure that you try and focus them on immediate tasks. One being, because the biggest thing that is a worry for young people in this country is jobs. Young people want jobs. You know, I mean, you should have seen how they screamed when the president mentioned the word jobs. When he said we are going to make sure that we also create new jobs
Pule, we're
for
running
young
out
people.
of time. Final thing, integrity is also important for many watching
Yes.
ANC. What is going to happen with the report from the Integrity Commission?
Well, all of these things, like we've said before, the position that we've conveyed, especially here when we spoke to yourselves, that the National Executive Committee has not even had sight of the report. At the time when it has sight of the report, it will be able to pronounce itself.
Are they choosing not to have sight of it? What's the delay?
Well, there was no NEC during the electioneering
So
period.
tomorrow they will get the report. What if it says that there are high-ranking officials who should step down?
Well, tomorrow's NEC is a special NEC. Special NECs are called to deal with specific issues. And once we conclude that NEC, we will be able to communicate the outcomes of the NEC.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very
ANC
much.
National Spokesperson, Pule Mabe.